How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much. It's almost 7 years now.
Yeah, 2013, and then
20
2012 was the
TEDx.
TED Talk. Yeah, TEDx Talk. Yeah, 7 years since I seen you. It was great to connect with you again.
Likewise. Thank you so much for accepting to be with us in this expert talks with Hari. This is a 60 minutes show which has three segments in it. The first segment is about who is Mr. Romeo Marcus Jr. Second
Mhm.
segment is about our theme, which is It's Time. The third segment is a surprise segment. So we'll start with first segment. Who is Mr. Romeo Marcus? Over to you.
All right. I'm still trying to figure out who Romeo is, so I don't even really know who I am. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm Romeo Marquez Jr. I'm from California, the Bay Area to be exact, not too far from Silicon Valley. So I call this place, the land of innovation, creativity, and just doing things differently so that we can just elevate the world in a greater way. Um, as a young person, I was really into entertainment. I used to break dance a lot as a kid. And in middle school and high school, I played sports. So I played volleyball, I played football, American football. But while I was in high school, I really wanted to do theater. I wanted to do performing, but I didn't do it because I was afraid of what my friends thought about me. I was afraid of not being good enough. I was afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, and all that stuff. And so, fortunately, when I went to a junior college. It's a college before going to the university. I took my first acting class, and um, I loved it. I felt like I was aligned with who I am and what was within me that I've been holding back for a long time. And so that led to plays, to awards, and then it allowed me to go to UCLA. I went to UCLA to study theater, film, and television. And so I was in the acting scene down there for a little bit. And then I moved up to the Bay Area to do a theater tour, and I opened up an acting school and a performing arts school. And then, well, I do want to say that, at an early age, I was really into personal development. And so as I was, teaching acting, I was also teaching these success principles. And long story short, I just applied these principles and into my life, started teaching them. And then I saw like speakers doing this exact same thing. And I'm like, yo, let me do that. And so I started doing that. And then what shifted my life was reading The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And I went to his training, and that allowed me to build a lot of great relationships. And, there are many things that happened along the way, from doing a one-man show that traveled the world to speaking at different conferences and coaching a lot of different clients. And I say all that to say, for a very long time, there were so many things that I wanted to do, but I stopped myself because I was always afraid of what other people might think about me. But when I learned to just step into my greatness, to allow myself to be me, opportunities started to show up, relationships started to happen, great relationships started to happen. And that's being attracted by just allowing you to be you. And one of the things that I like to say about life is, life is about living in full expression, LIFE, right? Living in full expression. And if you want to take it up another notch, what life is also about is LIFE, is loving in full expression. So loving in full expression. And so sharing that life, sharing that love, sharing what's within you is part of my journey to help others do the same.
Thank you so much. Now we move on to the next segment. But before that, I wanted to ask one area key lessons learned during your journey. Can you share that in your journey from your childhood, from what you remember till date?
Yeah. So first of all, before I answer that, I'm liking this whole production thing you got going. This feels like I'm on like some professional TV with hair. I like it. You got the little, taper thing. You got this over here, and then you're going zoom, and this is live. I love it. I love it. You're doing
Thank
an
you.
amazing
Thank
job.
you. Thank you.
Um, so key lessons based on, from living a young life all the way to where I am now. Number one, the first thing that comes to mind is just taking action. Don't overthink it. Jack Canfield says the world doesn't pay you for what you know. It pays you for what you do. Right. The other thing is building just, genuine relationships. I've attracted different opportunities based on the genuine relationships. It's not building just relationships, but genuine relationships, not on how can this person help me, but how can I help this other person, right? By being of service, by giving, that's where a bond is formed. And, whether an opportunity happens or not, it's not about that. It's the lifelong relationships that has been built. The other thing that comes to mind is doing things that align with your values and your purpose and your passion. Usually I am mindful of the things I say yes to and things that I say no to, because before I used to say yes to a lot of things, but if it's not aligned with who I am as an individual, if it doesn't align with like love and light, because I also value family, right? If it's interrupting family time, then I'm very mindful of not getting into that. And the last thing is, which is very, very deep for me, is I'm a very spiritual person, and whatever your spiritual belief is, tune into that often. Tune into that often, because that has guided me along the way, and it's opened up like new things that I wouldn't even think of. And it's not even me that's thinking; it's aligning and channeling through and receiving the stuff through meditation, through prayer, so forth and so on. And there is a saying that goes something to the effect of, when you're praying, you're talking to God, and when you meditate, God is talking to you. And so just listening to that inner voice, listening to that inner wisdom to guide you on your next move, because that's going to help you along the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we move on to the next segment. So before we move on to the next segment, I want to play a clip of your performance, and then we move on to the next segment, which is It's Time.
Okay, excellent. And action. And the video is about to play. Don't worry, guys. It's coming on. Here we go. I don't hear audio. Awesome. Fun. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much. Now, most memorable performance in TEDx Chennai 2012. Now we'll start with the second segment, which is It's Time.
Right.
There are a few areas which I want to break it down, like, starting from limiting beliefs to how we achieve what we want to achieve in life. But I know you have a style of doing it, so over to you.
Okay. Before, I want you to ask that again, because I do want to say something in just in regards to the whole TEDx experience. Okay. So talk about following intuition. And so I was at church, right? Probably 6 months prior to that TEDx event. And I was at church, and then I saw, like, my church did a missions trip to India. And I felt this strong calling from God. And God was like, you got to go to India. Like, I didn't know if it was a missions trip. I didn't know if it was speaking, but I just didn't know what it was. And so that's when I called Pooja. I said, hey, Pooja, I don't know what this means, but I feel called to go to India. And she's like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And she didn't know anything about the TEDx talk or anything like that. And so 6 months later, when the time came, she said, hey, this opportunity's here. Do you want to go? And I was like, Of course.
Um,
And so I received that message before it actually happened. And so by being aligned with that and then sharing that vision and message that you received to others, because who knows, she might not have reached out to me, but because I shared what I received, it allowed me to show up. And then I told Pooja right after, that amazing experience, I said, Pooja, I don't think I'm done yet. I feel like there's there's still more. And I totally didn't know what it was, but that's why I came back to India to do what we did there. So shout out to Pooja and following your intuition. Okay.
Okay.
Ask that thing again you wanted me to do.
No, see, when it comes about success in life, or whether it's personal or professional, there are different steps involved, starting from how do we overcome our limiting beliefs, to understand what is happening in life, how do we embrace our failures, what should be done when we reach a goal, how do we go back, set another goal. All these things are there, but I know when you explain about its time, all these things are going to be covered in that. So I'll leave it to you in your own style. Please
So
explain.
I do. If I'm gonna share some things, and then if you want to ask a specific question on a specific thing, feel free to ask, because
Sure.
I want to provide and share as much as I can, because I might be missing some things. But here we go.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you for that, Harry. So in regards to success itself, I have, again, one of the things is surrounding yourself with the people and environments in that which you want to be in. And so I didn't really have many of those mentors or speakers that I knew directly in my life. And so that's why I got these different tools from different teachers through books. Books was a really big thing. There weren't many podcasts. There were CDs. I did a lot of the CDs and the audio listening. YouTube wasn't even existing. So, of course, there were live events, and I just showed up to these live events. And, one of the big things I have to say is like having a mentor or reaching out to people that have experienced what you've experienced. That comes to mind. And, talking about when things happen to you, like, especially with what's going on in the world, how do you respond to that? And whether it be the pandemic, whether it be some other loss, or whether it be something that just breaks you down and you're confused and you ask why, one thing to remember, it's not about what happens to you. It's about what you do with what happens to you, right? It's not about what happens to you. It's about what you say to yourself when that thing happens to you, right? And the last thing is, it's not about what happens to you. It's about what happens within you. Because when you create that shift of, okay, life sucks, this is happening, you can create that small little shift to go, you know what? There's a gift here. What is the lesson here? Because in this lesson is a blessing. Ooh, let me say that again. Because in this lesson, there is a blessing. So when things do show up, see it as a gift. I mean, that might be easier, shared or said than done, but there's a greater opportunity, because for every breakdown, there's a breakthrough. For every trial, there's a trail for transformation. For every mess, there's a message. One thing that does come to mind is a story of my father, who was sent to the hospital. I was on the other side of the United States, South Carolina to be exact, when I got a call from my dad he was sent to the hospital. And if you knew my dad, he's Mr. Tough Guy, strong. If he gets hurt, he just sucks it up. But because I found out he went to the hospital, I knew it had to be something serious. And so when I called my dad, I reached out to my dad and I go, "Hey, Dad, how you feeling?" And there was just silence. And then, he says, "I wish you were here with me." And I was just like crying, like inside. And I could hear my dad crying. You don't hear like a manly man cry like that ever, right? It's super rare. And so I flew, fortunately, the next day to see my dad in the hospital, and he was laying down. And my mom was there, and he had tubes up his nose. He was awake, and I was just, sitting back and just watching this whole thing. And I asked myself, am I giving life all that I got? Am I living up to my full potential? Am I like giving what my dad did to what, in regards to what he did when he came here and just gave and dedicated and committed himself? And so fortunately, through prayers and, surgery, my dad got better and he's alive, he's well now. And one of the things that I do right now is I value time with my dad and my mom, because I don't know when they're gonna pass, right? Unfortunately, knock on wood. So I'm gonna do the things, not when I can, but while I can. And so that's part of the impetus of my message of It's Time, of not waiting your last days to live, like doing it now. And when you do it now, NOW, you have new opportunities waiting. And, there have been many times, again, where another situation in life for me was, I had this performing arts school. And it was a dream school for all these young people to, live their acting dreams, singing dreams, their dance dreams. And then that just fell apart, that it didn't work out. And I put all my time, energy, and effort into it. And so I'm like, what am I going to do now? And then I went, it's time. And I went, ooh, that's right. It is time. And I said, I always wanted to write a one-man show. And I was like, it's time. I was like, ooh, that's a good title. And next thing you know, I booked a venue. I started writing the show, and I did it once, and it was okay. And really, just know this: the very first time you start something, it's okay to suck, right? You don't, like Les Brown says, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Great.
Right? And then there's a second time I did it, and third time, and I kept on doing it. And so It's Time derived from not just the experience with my dad, but because this performing arts school like flopped and I didn't know what to do. And I could have went, oh, I guess I'm not made to do this. But in actuality, there was a bigger plan, more than just a school, not in one, place in Silicon Valley, but it was helping people not live their dreams in this pocket area, but more so around the world. And that's why I say for every breakdown, there's a breakthrough. So if you're going through something, whether it be rejection or the loss of a job or a family member, know that take time to reflect on, your time with that person or what took place, and then set new goals, set new intentions, because a blessing is on its way.
Okay. Thank you. There are different stages in success, right? Like, so I'll start from the initial stage and then we'll go one by one. What's your take on limiting beliefs, and how do you think people should overcome it?
Limiting belief. I think limiting beliefs basically come from, I can say from yourself, because we created ourselves. It's a story that we say to ourselves, but it also starts when we were younger, right? Whether it be in the home or your friends or whatever environment you're in. And so in order for you, the way to shift that is one thing that Wayne Dyer says. He says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's why I bring up the gift earlier. Yeah, you can say, oh, it's hard for me to do this because I'm not capable, or I can't do this because I don't have the resources. So that's one big thing. I'm going to piggyback on this real quick. People say, oh, I don't have the resources to do X, Y, and Z. But if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You could say, I may not have the resources, but I'm going to be resourceful with the resources that I have now. Because John Wooden says, he's a UCLA basketball coach. He says, do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do, right? And so that little shift in thinking and that little shift of action can, again, teeter you off. You're going to And here we go.
Sorry. So the second area which I want to touch is most of the people, like, okay, they have the good intentions, and they have overcome, they have come up with all these techniques to overcome their limiting beliefs. Now they are faced with fear, and especially, what would other people think if I fail, or will I? And then this inner doubt comes. But then first I'll start with fear. How do they embrace fear? Because there are multiple techniques, but the reason I'm asking, like, you have your style of saying it where people could understand in a very simple manner, and also, like, you say things which they will easily remember with lesson and
Acronym.
lesson and things, acronyms.
Yeah.
So how do we embrace fear?
Yeah. So Jack Canfield says everything you want in life is on the other side of fear, right? And so you can see fear as something you want to deter away from, or it could be something that you can overcome, right? And I see fear as something that is a gift in which where it's going to serve you because it's going to stretch you. It's going to grow you. And in order for you to grow, in order for you to expand to the next level or next chapter of your greatness, fear is going to show up. Hurdles are going to show up. It's supposed to happen. And one thing, I'm going to relate fear and failure together. People think failure is the opposite of success, but know that failure is a part of success. Let me say that again. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. You study, you take notice of every individual that you believe is successful. I guarantee you they've had many hurdles along the way, and you'll see that they had to overcome those to get them to the next level of their chapter. An acronym for FAIL that I like to share is FAIL is about finding answers in life.
Okay.
Finding answers in life. So when you do have that failure or that fear to jump through, there again, there are lessons and blessings, right? And then there's this other from Jack Canfield. It's I call it the SW to the fourth power rule. When you get that no, like, oh, you try to pitch a business, or you try to make this relationship happen, or whatever the case is, or you try to get to sell. Because you'll get a lot more no's than yes, right? So SW to the fourth power stands for some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. So when these things do arrive, know that it is all part of the journey to help you. It's here to shift you. So it's not here to bring you down, but here to grow you.
Okay. Next, I want to touch on there are certain patterns which has happened in the past, and then every single time I try to do something new, and then those patterns will overpower my thinking, and then, oh, maybe this might not work. This kind of self-doubt kicks in. So breaking the old patterns is the next question.
Okay,
breaking the old patterns. Yeah.
Got it. So the old patterns have become habits that you've created over time, right? And all these habits are things you've done whether you knew it or not, because it's so deep into your subconscious that you're just doing it naturally. And you wish you could change, but you keep telling yourself, but I can't, blah, blah, blah. So that's been a habit. And when we do an exercise, a habit, it can serve us or bring us down. And so in that regard, one exercise that I like to do with my clients and or trainings is write down all your current habits, right? I watch TV a lot. I go on social media. I work out. I eat too much, bad food, blah, 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 right? List all the ones down. And actually, I'm going to even be more specific. If I were to take a paper right? And then you were to draw a T, and then you say bad habits on one side and then good habits on the other side. List all the bad habits. This is what I was trying to say earlier. List all the bad habits and then flip them to a good habit. So for example, if one of my bad habits is I spend too much time on social media and Netflix, one good habit, a better habit is I will spend less time on social media and Netflix. And then you can get more specific on like, what are you going to do with that extra time? Another habit could be I procrastinate a lot. On the flip side, a good habit is I will schedule, I will time block all the things I will do into my calendar. You know what I mean? So now you're just seeing it on paper. And if you practice that every single day and you track it, because when you track it, you can measure it, right? And the more thing you can measure something, the more you can see the growth. So a great example for me personally is I'm a morning person. Morning person, I have a morning routine. And in that morning routine, I have, just to break it down, I have 7 things. So my morning ritual consists of reading something positive, I'll meditate, goals, I'll review my goals, I'll say my affirmations, I write in a gratitude journal, and then I'll visualize, then I'll work out. And so I track this. So it's like 7 every day. Boom, 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 boom. And there have been days where it's like, ooh, 7 out of 7, 7 out of 7, 7 out of 7. And then there have been times where it's like 1 out of 7. And then I feel off the next day. And I go, oh, why do I feel off? My energy's off. It's because I didn't practice this habit that I've like instilled in myself. And so when you are, you know, deep into these patterns that you are creating for yourself, just notice the different habits. And if you want to take it to the next level of especially like limiting beliefs, write down all your limiting beliefs and flip them into a more positive belief. So if you can't, again, I'm going to keep it simple here. If one limiting belief is I am not capable, on the flip side, just say I am capable, right? And then I'm not good enough. On the flip side, it could be I am good enough. And so as you, every day, it's not when I feel like it, not once a month, but every day, I will read affirmations to make sure and implant in my subconscious mind that I am good enough, I am capable, I have what it takes. And so that in itself creates a shift in my thinking, right? Because the ancestor to every thought is an action. So even though I said it's all about taking action, it really starts with the thoughts. So when you shift your thought, you shift your life.
Okay. When there's a study done of all the successful people, like, you know, as you said, the thought and the strongest belief they had, and then the thought, and then they take the action. During the action, you know, the process of taking the action, there is, you know, this kind of past memories or limiting beliefs. These things come, and then they've reached the place. They've done whatever it takes to reach the point where they want to, but still they fail, or they get a feedback at the end of that stage. It was not the expected outcome which they had in mind. So at that point, what do they do?
Right. Oh, here you go. You're going to just readjust. You're going to pivot. You're going to learn from whatever feedback you're going to get, because failure is nothing more than feedback, right? So if something happens and it doesn't go the way you want it, see what worked. 3 quick questions to ask yourself when something, whether it's good or bad. What went well? What didn't go well? What can I do different next time? Right? And then boom, from there, it's like, okay, I'm going to add this. I'm going to add this next time. Maybe I should have done more calls, or I should have hired somebody and delegated this thing because I spent more time on this, where that's not my strength. Right? So and it's, again, another thing that comes to mind is going back to a mentor or a guide or a coach or somebody that's been where you were, and go ask them like, hey, I made it this far, but didn't go the way I wanted. What do you think I could do differently so that I can up level? And then he'll share or she'll share some things, and you go, oh, I didn't think about that. Let me try that this time. So be open to feedback. be open to feedback. And obviously you want to be mindful of what feedback you're receiving from. Sometimes I know on social media, people will just start talking negative and it's like, oh, your thing sucks, it's bad, blah, blah. And don't take that feedback personally. Get feedback from people that you respect and trust.
Now I've reached, okay, now I've taken the feedback, I've changed my strategy, and I've reached where I want to reach. And once I reach there, okay, now what's next? Like I planned, I initially had, I deviated a little bit, and then with the help of the coach, I've come back and I've reached the success. What's the next stage?
What is your next goal, right? So like, okay, say, did you achieve this thing or not? Did you achieve it?
Yes, I've achieved. So I set another goal and I move on, right? So in this entire journey, I want you to reflect on your days with Mr. Jack Canfield. Can you share the experience, when you went for the first time, and how his teachings transformed your thinking and how it impacted your life?
Yeah, well, that's a two-part question, because there's a question about what happens next after the success, and then my experience with Jack Canfield. So just to real quick on that first question you asked is, say, let's say you did all those things and then you achieve that level of success, right? Because I could say, oh, I did my one-man show, I'm done. Now what? Right? So you want to like see how you can up-level that, like, what is the greater impact, or what is the thing you want to do next? Because say I'm playing football or basketball or whatever business I'm running, you're going to hit a plateau, right? Which is okay. And you could either sell that business, or you might, try to reach new goals within whatever you're taking place. And then because when you do set those new goals, you're going to meet new people, and you're again expanding your greatness. Your greatness isn't capped, right? It's going to continue to expand at the level of what you want to. So if you're okay with having your business reach $1 million and you just want to stop, I'm just going to keep it at $1 million, and you're okay with that, that's okay. If you're okay with that. But if you want to take it to the next level and do 2 million, okay, there's going to be certain steps and strategies that you didn't do yet that reach the 1 million. Of course, you're going to apply those for the 1 million, but now you're going to take it up another notch, and that's the new growth, the new learnings, the new downfalls, the new failures, and then that's going to expand you on another level, and you're going to hit the 2 million, right? Now you want to do 5 million, or it may not even. And then at the end of the day, because there was this one person said something that was really, or Master P, he's a rapper. He said, people see success as how much money you make, but he said the billionaires and trillionaires, if there are any trillionaires in the world, is not about how much money they make, but how much money they can give away, right? Wow. Now that's another level of thinking. It's not like, oh, I reached this amount of money, but how much can they give away? Because now, because they're such great givers, it's because they made so much money. So I'm like, how can I shift that into like, how much more can I give? So that's my take on expanding growth and then service. Because at some point in your life, you're going to make it to the top. Now, along the way, you'll probably give, but now you might shift into like more service mode, and everybody has their different evolution. But yeah, also that I'll end it with that. And then just to really quickly talk about Jack Canfield. He's just a genuine individual that has helped me along the way, and the experiences that I had. And one great exercise that you can do in your trainings, or just, even with your team members or your family, if you will. I remember in a training with Jack, I asked them, so there's an exercise in which where you go to each individual and you ask, how do you see me limiting myself? How do you see me limiting myself? Now that's kind of scary, because now they're going to tell you the feedback of like how they see you limiting yourself. And so I asked Jack Canfield, I said, all right, Jack. So everybody's, talking with each other, asking that question, sharing the feedback. I asked Jack Canfield, I said, how do you see me limiting myself? And Jack Canfield thought about it, and he goes, and this was back in 2010, 2011. And he goes, Romeo, I don't see anything. I think you're playing full out. I go, nah.
Mm.
No. I tell me something that you see that I'm limiting myself. And so he had to take a moment. He tuned in, and then he said, Romeo, don't limit yourself working with just the youth, because I was a youth speaker at the time. I was speaking at a lot of just high schools. He said, there are a lot of people that may be older than you that you can serve, help in a greater way based on your experience, based on the new principles you're learning, so forth and so on. And so because of that feedback, I thought like, oh, because I'm young, I can't talk to the older people yet. That shift and that thought, that, message that he shared with me allowed me to go, oh, I guess I am capable of speaking to different groups. And that led me to speaking to sales directors, to entrepreneurs, to different conferences that were way beyond my age range. But point being is working with Jack Canfield helped me see beyond my possibilities, beyond my thinking, because other people could see beyond what you might think and see your potential more than they could see it within you. Because like we mentioned earlier, we give ourselves the story of not, us bringing ourselves down a lot, more than most the time. And so being surrounded by mentors, being surrounded by people who can lift you up and see the potential in you can help you take your greatness to the next level.
Okay. Now we move on to the third segment, which is more focused on the surprise areas which I told you.
Okay.
The first question is, I'm giving you a time machine. You can go to whichever year you want in the past and spend 3 months time with your favorite leader. Come back to 2020 and you're going to write a book on that. What you've learned spending 3 months with your favorite leader.
First thing that comes to mind, I thought about a lot. First thing that comes to mind is Jesus.
Wow.
Whether you're spiritual or not, whether you believe in Jesus or not, whether you believe it happened or not, for me, based on, church and readings, I want to know what really happened and talk about how much Jesus overcame. And I'm not here to preach about, the spirit. I'm just talking about the individual who's overcome so many things and understand what it took for, because again, so much took place because he died at 33 or, passed on or whatever you want to call it. And that for me is something that I'm just interested in. I thought about like, okay, Bruce Lee, I thought about Abraham Lincoln, but Jesus was the first person that came to mind.
Okay. And the second question is about, let's say I'm giving you a magical wand. With one swish, you can change one thing in the entire world. It'll change right away, even before this program finishes. What would you like to change?
In the world?
Entire world, it will change right away. One swish, that's all it takes.
The easy answer is love, but kindness. Because I have love for people, but doesn't mean I'm always kind to them. Right? Because I love my wife, but we are sometimes not kind to each other. And I say that with all love and respect, right? But kindness. I think if people, and then there are other things like compassion and mindfulness and all that. But one step would be just practicing kindness, because by doing that, it just creates a ripple effect. I mean, you are a great individual and great example of kindness. And there are people, other people who are kind, and then we get into our anger mode and that's okay. We go through it, but imagine if this world was more kind, especially with all that's going right now. Like people fighting over toilet paper at that one point. Come on, let's practice some kindness. And kindness, not just to other people, but to yourself. Right? A lot of the times we're not kind to ourselves. And that's where a lot of the hurtful things take place, because it's not what someone says to me. Remember, I said this earlier. It's not what happened to you. It's not what someone says to you. It's about what you say to yourself. And a lot of it a lot of the mental health, a lot of the confidence that can be lacked is based on you being kind or not kind to yourself. So be kind to others, magical wand. Kindness is the one. Be kind to others and be kind to yourself.
Now, with this COVID thing happening all around the world, I would like to you to explain, or what you practice. Like, how do you cope up with this situation, and what are the basic things what person could do at home? Because what we see is on all levels. We see economic crisis, domestic violence. Different layers, different issues are happening, and of course, a lot of people come, webinars and these kind of sessions happen. A lot of people talk, but what I felt was like, instead of referring a book or a person told, what we practice, especially people who are successful, what they do, it might be a simple thing for them, but when a person views it and they apply in their life, that could make a change. So any daily regimens which you said, like, 7 things I do when I get up, what, especially when this scenario, I mean, like COVID, where this has brought down all of them in one level, whether he was a busy person in movie, or a person in sports field, or a person in IT field, whichever field they're all one level, and all of them inside the four walls. And then sometimes I was thinking the other day, 3 months sitting inside a house, okay, it has few rooms, we are feeling frustrated. There was a person who was sitting inside a cell for 25 plus years, and when he came out, it was only kindness and love. Mandela. I was like, 3 months is making me go boy no. And then,
Right.
how did this person have that, and then digest it, and then only, it's only love when he comes out. And there was no frustration, there was no, okay, let me take revenge, and no, nothing like that. It was all love. And when when he meets Dalai Lama, and he says he is one of the kindest person I've met. Dalai Lama saying to Mandela this, you tell from your side, because this is what I was the other day thinking, and I felt, okay, I'll ask you as well.
Yeah.
How do you cope up with this?
Yeah, so just talking about, I don't know much about Nelson Mandela. Obviously, I know who he is and the thing he overcame. And there's gonna be a point where you can just be mad only for so long and frustrated. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can be mad for so long, but after a year or two, it's like, I got 23 more years of, or whatever, of time. How long do I want to be mad? I'm gonna sick of it. Once you do something too much of something, you're gonna get sick of it, right? And so I think, again, I would have to do more research. He had to tap into something like bigger than himself, and or he started reading some things that people have been through something similar, maybe not at that level, but been through that hardship. And there are commonalities of wanting to do things different, especially those that have been locked up. And we're worried about like the 3 months, because it has kind of stripped us away from our freedom to do our everyday things. And so for me, and this is a question that I do get a lot, the first thing that comes to mind that I usually share with people is writing in a gratitude journal. Yeah, I said the affirmations and all that, but the gratitude journal plays a key role in seeing, like, while all this is happening, while all those unfortunate events are happening, there are a lot of great events. There are a lot of great things in your life that are happening. I have a life to live. I am breathing. I have a home. I get to spend time with my family, right? So forth and so on. And even though I get it, even within the home, like, I'm 3 months with these people and I can't step out, that's frustrating, blah, 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 right? So the other thing is, I'm all about health, because emotion, whether it goes up or down, is, like Tony Robbins says, it's energy in motion, emotion, energy in motion. And so what this pandemic is doing is having people not produce energy. They're just sitting, typing on their phone, watching TV. So it's stagnant. There's no energy moving. And so they locked all the gyms here, so we can't go to the gyms. And so right before we got on a call, I was working out. I got some dumbbells. Usually I like all these different weights, but I'm like limited. So I had to buy some stuff on like Facebook Watch. not Facebook Watch, Facebook Marketplace, because a lot of the dumbbells are being sold for X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I thought it was an investment because I know what brings me joy, right? And so talking about do with what, it's not about the resources that you have, it's about being resourceful. And so, you know, the bench press, Harry, right? Bench press.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
I have dumbbells. I have dumbbells, and you know, you usually need a bench. So let me show you something real quick. The arm of that couch, could you see that? The couch?
Yes.
So the arm, just the arm, the arm right there is my bench. I use that as a bench, like this right here. This right here. I have to get creative, right? So it's like I don't have a bench. Benches are like $300. I'm like, I'm not spending $300. What do I have here that I can just work with? And so I say all that to go like, yeah, there are things that have stripped away your freedom that usually brings you joy, so forth and so on. But there are things at home that you can do or create or innovate with that will help you physically or mentally. So gratitude journal is one. Working out, I don't know where you're at in the world and how strict they are, but we can walk outside, we can run outside. Obviously, there's social distancing, but for me, I love nature. So going outside, getting the sun, because that's another thing. And whether it be in your backyard or in your front yard, if you can do that, like just get some sun, because the sun isn't just the sun because it feels good. There are actually things that it does for your body that will help you, because we're so locked in and caged up that we don't get the vitamins we need, right? And so it's one thing, last thing I want to say is that it's your inner world that creates your outer world, right? It's your inner world that creates your outer world. So if you're not taking care of this inner world, like mind, body, heart, spirit, it's hard for you to produce and externalize the things that you really want to do, because the things aren't aligned within. So that's why nurture your inner world, whether it be, you know, reading a new book or watching a new documentary or doing something physical, because you could have your mind right, but if you're eating crappy because it's so easy to, you're not breathing is a factor, because ultimately my thinking is by locking us up and not doing those things, we're actually getting more sick, right? In the long term of things. So doing things that will bring your energy, because again, life is about energy and motion. Everything is energy. Everything is energy.
Next segment is your favorite segment. It's gratitude slot, where you can go ahead and name the people who have helped you to be who you are today. Name them and pay your gratitude to them. Of course, the list is going to be huge, but you can tell the key milestones in your life.
All right. Could you still hear me? I think my mic turned off.
Yes.
Okay. First, people that come to mind are my parents. You know, shout out to my parents, because I wouldn't be where I am today without them. My dad came from the Philippines to the United States on very little money, and you know, his first job was pumping gas at a gas station, and the second job was being, you know, washing dishes at a restaurant. And then for 40 plus years, he was a stock clerk, you know, at Macy's. But he had 2 engineering degrees in the Philippines. So he sacrificed and left all that because his dad knew he would have a better life in the US. And so for him to sacrifice all that he worked hard for and hustled his way, and he didn't really know anybody here, and he raised me and my sister along with my mom, that's a lot. And so I owe it a lot to him. My mom, you know, just supported my dad along the way. She's taught me just how to love people, how to just say thank you, how to practice kindness, and living with faith, you know. My sister's a huge person in my life we've been talking about this whole personal development, you know, since the beginning of or at an early age. And, you know, of course, my wife, she's, while I'm this free spirit of like, oh, anything is possible, life is good, my wife is like, that's cute, Romeo, come down to earth. And let's be realistic here. Right? Because as I'm talking, I'm like dreaming and I'm feeling good. She's like, that's cute, but let's talk about what's real. Right? And so we balance each other, because she, in the same way, is like so realistic and very, by the book. I'm like, that's cute, but let's fly a little bit. Like let's, because it's hard, it's not always going to be hard. And then I'll go into my thing. So having that balance has helped us. So shout out to her. And then obviously, as I mentioned, Jack Canfield has been, person in my life. And even someone I didn't mention earlier is my first director at Ohlone College. Before I went to UCLA, he chose me for this big role in my very first play, which opened up other opportunities. And he's given me and provided me with so much knowledge and wisdom as a young person that I didn't, I'm just a young person, didn't know what I want to do with my life. And he just gave me these steps, which led to other amazing teachers along the way. And that is all. I could list so many more other people. I could say, yes, so many more people.
Okay. Now, I asked 60 minutes of your time. We're almost at the tail end of the 60 minutes. What's your message to the world? Of course, the COVID part you have touched, in general to the world.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Your message to the world.
My message to the world is, it's time. It's time. Now, what does it's time mean? And what does it stand for? Of course, I have an acronym, ITS-TIME. It's time stands for Igniting Transformation, so that inspiration moves every day. Igniting transformation so that inspiration moves every day. And so do things that inspire you. Do things that will inspire other people, because it creates a transformation for others to live their best life, right? It's time also means time itself. Value the time that you have while you're here on earth. Value your time with your family. Value your time with the friends that you can over the phone or Zoom or whatever it may be. A lot of people say, when they're older, like, I wish I had more time to do this. I wish I spent more time doing this. So in actuality, it's time to do that. And lastly, I want to say on this, that it's time also means doing it now, not waiting, not playing small, not waiting for the right moment or perfect opportunity. Like, it's time also means do the things and set yourself up for the success, because when the world opens up, because it will eventually, this is a perfect opportunity to plant those seeds, harvest, plan, and as you water and grow and plant those seeds, when world opens up, you'll be ready, and you're going to set yourself for success. So use your time wisely, because every minute and every moment count. And the last thing I want to say about time itself is, be sure to be kind to yourself, and spend more time doing that rather than hurting yourself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Romeo. Like, a lot of key areas, and especially with your favorite theme, it's time, we covered today. I'm really happy that you were able to allot 60 minutes of your time to share these things to our viewers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll come back to India sooner than later. Sooner or later. Hold on. Can I take a picture? I want to take a picture. So, Harry, let's take a picture. Ready? Take a picture. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Harry. Look forward. And those that are watching now or later, love you all. It's time.
Can I also click a picture, please?
Oh, do it. Yes. You should be doing this all the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Mr. Romeo Marquez from California. I first met him in 2012 during a conference here in Chennai. With his performance, he held the entire crowd standstill, and we just witnessed this during our second segment. One person with ultimate energy, and then he comes with this nice acronyms that people could remember, and always they kind of connect with every single situation, and then the acronym comes to mind, and then they immediately remember the entire content. High energy personality. Of course, you can reach him. He's on Instagram and Facebook. Uh, there are many more interesting personalities lined up. He's our 90th guest. We have 10 more to touch our 100th guest. Thank you.